Good morning, TikTok. It's Shumahan Bowen, your American Indian, your lawyer, your fellow traveler on the road with a book review, The Ministry of Truth, the biography of George Orwell's 1984. Now, this book is very exciting. Let me tell you what Dorian Linsky, that's the author, but you can get it on Kindle. I read this. What if they wrote a biography and it was actually about a book, not a person? And that's exactly what happened here. 1984, right? I think was written around 1940 or 1950. Envisioning a world, part of something that they called dystopian future, right? Not utopian, which is everything's going to be beautiful, but dystopian, where everything is horrible. But, Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, all of those types of science fiction go into this. This maybe falls into that category, or the other ones fall into the category of 1984. 1984 is where we get such choice concepts as Big Brother. He came up with that. Big Brother, right? The government spy agency inside that is looking at the population, watching them, their every move, right? And at the time that he wrote it, it was kind of fantastical. The main technology they had was people, in the Soviet Union, Russia. That was where they would have, it was easy to spot Big Brother, because Big Brother was your neighbors or your enemies that would report on your activities to the local hatchet men for the government that would come and take you away in the night. Nobody knew what happened to you. A lot of what this is written about, though, is Nazi Germany, fascism, totalitarianism. That's what really sparked this. And as you read this book, you will learn what were the influences for George Orwell, right? He went to Spain before World War II and the rise of fascism in Spain. He went there and was in the volunteer army, got shot through the throat, survived it. But I think what's important to understand is that it wasn't communism, it wasn't any of those things. It was the rise of the dictator, the strong man, fascism. The idea that one person, and in these days it was a man, was going to come in, take over, and fix everything that was broken. That was Spain. That was at the same time Italy with Mussolini, and then Germany with Hitler. And all of the propaganda tricks that they employed are what George Orwell used, or at least based a lot of the world that people live in. And I think now, this book is great because it gives you a sense of an understanding of now. He couldn't have dreamed of the internet. He couldn't have dreamed of algorithms that were going through and looking at everybody, but he did put a warning in his book, in the appendix, that everyone who reads this book, 1984, it'll be easy to see it in other countries, right? And that's exactly what happened in the United States. We were able to look at Soviet Union, Russia, and say, that's 1984, totalitarian state. But of course, we didn't see any such thing here. But I think in United States 2023, you can see it. You can see that 1984 is here. We're going, 2023, we've actually gone back in time to 1984, where we're being watched, surveilled, all those kinds of things, controlled. And maybe that's always been the case. Maybe that has always been the case. Maybe the United States has always used whatever technology was available to keep an eye on everything. That would explain how the FBI kept track of Black Power movements, American Indian movements, and any other movements in the United States. That would explain it. It also talks a lot about somebody that was named Joseph McCarthy, who George Orwell would have been alive to see the news reports and things of Joe McCarthy, who went around and destroyed people and their careers by accusing them of being a quote-unquote communist. And it's really interesting is that it wasn't that any of it was really proved. It was just the mere suspicion and then the fear that people around felt that they might be fingered next that led to him going as far as he did. And the other thing that Joseph McCarthy knew how to do was to get that liberal press back then to get wrapped around his fingers, because he could give sensational talking points, and he would get the press to reprint what he's talking about. Which, right, is what Donald Trump does. Sensational talking points. Sensational talking points to get people to reprint what he does. And it's hard to ignore, because there's so many things that he says. It's hard to ignore. But I think what's also worth pointing out is that this dystopian future, the fascists, they survive in part because there are followers, there are acolytes, there are Sith trainees, apprentices. There are people who want this fascist person to come in because they think they're going to get rewarded. They think that they're going to be entitled to the spoils of victory. Once the iron fist of the blonde wig grabs hold of the United States, they believe they will be first in line to get their due rewards. And that's why they carry the water for that type of person. And the truth of the matter is that it may not come to pass. It may not come to pass. A lot of dictators, people in control at the very top, forget. As soon as they grab the reins of power, they forget who got them there. Now their next step is just to maintain power or strengthen their hold over a community. And Joseph Stalin, that's exactly what went on. Joseph Stalin would do these purges. He'd have to flush the toilet, right? He'd have to flush the toilet, every decade or so, or maybe even more frequently, to get rid of a lot of the people who did the evil things that he needed them to do in order for him to maintain power. He would then use their exact crime, right, to have a trial and then kill them off so that nobody else got too powerful around him. This is something we need to reflect on. 1984. Read about it. It's really good. When the war is against the people to maintain the social establishment, to maintain the order. That's I think where we're living. And I really believe that the racists who've been called by President Trump, I believe that they are being manipulated in order to put certain people in power. They will not be rewarded. They will not live in the great future that they think is coming. They will not live in any of that. And also, I think in 1984, you get an understanding of slogans, this propaganda, how it really works. I'm going to do a deep dive into propaganda because I really want to understand. We've been cut off from our history for so long. We've been cut off from human values for so long. We've been cut off. We've been separated. We've been diced and minced as a culture. And it's up to us to reach out and heal from all that and move forward. Otherwise, we can't compete in the 21st century. I promise.